I just start to say I am so honoured to be the spokesperson in this debate and to speak after incredibly powerful speeches. But in particular, I want to acknowledge the work of the Honourable Member for Luton North and her words today. Thank you for all you do on human rights and particularly for your advocacy for the trans community. I'm not sure how I follow what you have shared, but I know there will be more to come in this chamber, and I know there will be more tears. Pride Month is a celebration of visibility, dignity and progress, but it should also be a moment of honesty. Despite the hard-fought progress we have made as a nation, we are slipping backwards on the LGBT rights in this country. In 2025, the UK fell 6 places to 22nd in ILGA Europe's LGBT rights ranking, and to put that into context, we were ranked number 1 in Europe in 2015. And when it comes to gender recognition rights, the UK now ranks in the bottom 6 of 49 European countries. And I think that should concern every member of this House who believes in the fundamental rights of equality, freedom, and human dignity. Pride Month matters because standing up for the LGBT community is ultimately about standing up for everyone's right to live openly, safely, and authentically. It says that no matter who you are, who you love, or how you present, you are equally valued and equally respected. And this House should remember that progress in LGBT equality has never been inevitable. Every single right was fought for by campaigners, activists, and political allies who refused to accept that discrimination is the status quo. And our thanks should and does go to every single one of them. The Liberal Democrats are proud to have stood alongside that movement for decades. We fought to repeal Section 28, the legislation which silenced LGBT people in schools and communities and told an entire generation that who they were was something that was shameful. I have 2 sons, and through them I have seen how different education is now from when I was at school, and I am incredibly grateful to see how education has changed. And I can see how living as your authentic self has become something supported by schools. And most inspiringly, I've watched as so many young people have come through my door who are living and exploring who they are. And I look at them and I think we should all take inspiration from so many of the next generation who are just simply letting each other love who they want to love and be who they want to be. As a party, the Liberal Democrats were also instrumental in delivering equal marriage. With our Equalities Minister, Lynn Featherstone, now Baroness Featherstone, in the other place, she led the fight inside government to make marriage equality a reality in this country, and I'm deeply proud that we led that fight. And I've been deeply moved too by the stories of couples who have generously shared with me about the change that meant for them as a couple and for their families. Yet, in spite of all that progress, this year has been a particularly upsetting year for much of the LGBT community, especially trans, non-binary and intersex people, following the Supreme Court ruling on the definition of sex in the Equality Act. Like many members across this House, I have received deeply distressing accounts from constituents fearful of even being able to participate fully in public life going forward. And let me be clear, trans rights and human rights are not in conflict. After the ruling, the government's responsibility was to provide clear and workable guidance. But the EHRC Code of Practice laid before Parliament just 2 weeks ago is in its current form exclusionary, unworkable and deeply concerning. Even the government's own equality impact assessment acknowledges disproportionate harm to those with protected characteristics. It warns that women who do not conform to cultural expectations of what a woman should look like could face challenges simply to access a women-only space. It acknowledges the negative impact on disabled people with Disability Rights UK, warning against forcing trans and non-binary people into separate third spaces. And most alarmingly, it explicitly states that some trans people could effectively be barred from both spaces aligned with their gender identity and those aligned with their birth sex, leaving them with no space and services at all. That is not dignity. That is exclusion. I am personally worried for the whole trans community, but particularly for the next generation of trans men and women. With all the changes that are happening in the way that the LGBT community is spoken about here in the UK, with the stories that have already been shared about certain political parties and individuals, what is that saying to the next generation? What is the world that we are giving as a legacy? We have to act now before it is too late. That is why my honourable friends, Ed Davey and our Women and Equality spokesperson.
The Honourable Lady has been here very nearly 2 years. It's been rife today. We must stop referring to members by their names, but by their constituencies, please.
I do apologise, Madam Deputy Speaker. That is why my honourable friends, whose constituencies have temporarily lost my brain, but my honourable friends have called upon the government to withdraw the code and ensure this issue is properly scrutinised by Parliament. Guidance of this significance simply should not be pushed through as a negative statutory instrument without proper democratic debate or a vote in this House. And alongside parliamentary scrutiny of the code, there are urgent actions the government could take now. One meaningful and long overdue step would be to finally implement a fully trans-inclusive ban on conversion practices. And this goes back to 2018 when Theresa May's government proposed it, and it still hasn't happened. And I know from attending so many Pride events and talking with people about a ban, they just aren't aware that it isn't already in place and are frankly shocked that it isn't already in place. Now, the government did promise in the last King's speech to publish a draft bill, and the government have promised to do so in this King's speech. And I thank the Minister for her comments on this issue. But I do want to join the Honourable Member for Aberdeen North in pressing the Minister for clarity on a timeline. The LGBT community cannot wait until the end of this session only to see the promise broken yet again. Conversion practices are barbaric. They are based on the offensive idea that LGBT people are somehow broken or in need of fixing. The practices cause profound psychological harm and have absolutely no place in a modern society. So I want to end by saying, this Pride Month, let us celebrate the progress of the generations before us fought so hard to achieve, but also let us recognise that equality is never guaranteed, and we are in an incredibly fragile place. At a time when LGBT people, particularly trans people, are increasingly being used as a political football, in divisive culture wars, this House has a responsibility to stand firmly on the side of dignity, compassion and human rights, because Pride must always, always be more than a celebration. It must be a year-round promise that we will keep fighting until everyone is truly free to live openly and equally without fear. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Tim Roth.